Number 8. A fully planned attack. On May 12, 2022, an 18-year-old stabbed 2 women and openly confessed to his desire to kill other people, including members of his own family. The Davis County Sheriff's Office received a call on May 12 at 6:42 p.m. reporting an incident at Mueller Park. Deputies responded to the scene where they found a victim who had several stab wounds. The injuries were severe, and emergency responders took her to the hospital in critical condition. Shortly after that, another assault was reported at a nearby business, and authorities believe that the 2 incidents were interconnected. According to an official statement from the Davis County Sheriff's Office, the suspect was identified as 18-year-old Kane Fairbank, and he lured an 18-year-old woman whose identity has not been disclosed to Mueller Park. The 2 had met on Tinder a few days before their meeting, and they spent several hours at the park, after which Fairbank launched a vicious stabbing attack on the woman. The victim fought back, managing to break free from her assailant's grip. She tried to get help from witnesses nearby. 2 of the witnesses were nurses, and 1 was an emergency medical technician, and they quickly intervened, creating a barrier between Fairbank and the victim. They gave the wounded woman immediate first aid, while another person dialed 911 to get more help. After this attack, Fairbank abandoned his vehicle at a gas station in Bountiful. There, he went up to a 64-year-old woman randomly and launched a sudden and brutal assault, stabbing her multiple times. But this victim also fought back, and concerned witnesses helped protect her until the arrival of first responders. Once again, Fairbank tried to flee the scene, but one of the witnesses managed to detain him until law enforcement officers could arrest him. During the investigation, Fairbank confessed to the detectives, revealing his intent to carry out the attacks and indicating plans for more assaults. He expressed his desire for his victims to be in vulnerable positions. Fairbank had planned the killing of his date since their first connection on Tinder. He invited her to the park under the guise of a meeting, intending to lure her into his car and murder her. What's more, he also intended to harm members of his own family. According to the court documents, he spoke at length about his plans to kill his parents and siblings, mentioning his possession of a pickaxe at his house. Fairbank has since been booked into the Davis County Jail on multiple charges, including 2 counts of attempted murder, 2 counts of obstruction of justice, and aggravated kidnapping. As the investigation progresses, he is being held without the possibility of bail. Number 7. A disturbed killer. On July 9, 2022, a 28-year-old man was arrested for the hanging death of a man at a gym in Ogden, Utah. The man proceeded to kill a second victim and claimed that his actions were part of a purge. The Spanish Fork police got a call on the morning of July 8th at around 6:30 a.m., reporting the discovery of a lifeless body near a dumpster. Authorities arrived at the scene and found out that the deceased person, who was believed to be a middle-aged homeless man, had met his untimely death. They classified the death as suspicious and launched a homicide investigation. The victim was later identified as 49-year-old Ryan Hooley. A significant breakthrough in the case happened when the Ogden Police Department contacted the Spanish Fork on July 9th. They relayed the news of the arrest of Christian Taylor for the unrelated incident in Ogden, but it unexpectedly led to further developments in the purge case. According to reports, the Ogden police responded to a distress call on Saturday, July 9th around 7:10 p.m. The incident unfolded in the 2400 block of Adams Boulevard, where they discovered a 23-year-old male hanging from gym equipment. The authorities swiftly intervened, transporting the victim to a hospital. He remained in critical condition, initially admitted without any signs of brain activity. A witness stated that Taylor went up to the victim and put him through a brutal assault involving kicking and strangulation. Taylor then brought the victim into the gymnasium, where he hanged him by the neck. The details of the case were further illuminated by an affidavit in which Taylor explicitly admitted that he wanted to kill the victim. The victim and Taylor did not know each other before this encounter, but Taylor claimed that his actions were guided by a higher power and motivated by a mission to purge the city. After the legal proceedings began, Taylor's trial was put on hold so that a state psychiatrist could evaluate the defendant's mental competency to determine his ability to stand trial. His defense attorneys filed a motion in the 2nd District Court, expressing that their client thought that external forces and voices were directing him, instructing him on where to go and whom to interact with. They requested an evaluation of his competency, which Judge Joseph Bean granted. The Utah State Hospital assigned a psychiatrist to conduct the assessment and to make sure that Taylor was fully sane and aware of his actions. In November 2022, he was found to be competent to stand trial and was charged with second-degree murder. Taylor was booked into the Weber County Jail, where he is being held without the possibility of bail as he awaits his sentence. Number 6. The deadly fire in the storage. On February 18, 2023, a 30-year-old Utah man who was out on bond was arrested for locking his girlfriend and her dog inside a storage unit and intentionally setting it ablaze. The incident unfolded at Cube Smart Self-Storage, located on South 900 East in Murray City, on the afternoon of February 18th at around 4:42 p.m. The Murray City Fire Department responded to the scene. They got there to find a raging fire that had completely engulfed a storage unit. After extinguishing the flames, authorities made a shocking discovery. Inside the charred unit, they found the lifeless bodies of a person and a dog. The victim was identified as 27-year-old Morgan K. Harris, along with her loyal K-9 companion named Huck. Morgan had a diverse professional background, and she worked as a model, makeup artist, and medical assistant. She had recently embarked on a new job in Draper and was full of hope and aspirations for the future. The focus of the investigation quickly turned to Morgan's boyfriend, Alexander Wardell, who was taken into custody by the authorities. Detailed records from the Salt Lake County Jail show that Wardell faced several charges, including kidnapping, negligent homicide, violation of parole, 2 counts of aggravated assault, possession of a dangerous weapon, and 2 counts of criminal mischief. Wardell confessed to the officials, revealing that he intentionally confined Morgan and her beloved dog within the storage unit before igniting the fire and escaping the scene. Later, it was uncovered that Wardell had a criminal history and had been released on bond just 1 day before the incident. He had violated his probation on February 16th, leading to his temporary imprisonment. Surprisingly, Wardell managed to secure his release from jail by posting a $5,000 bond on February 17th, only to be arrested for this horrific crime a day later. As the investigation continues to unfold, Alexander Wardell remains in custody without the possibility of bond. Number 5. The murder of an ex-girlfriend. On May 6, 2022, a woman's body was discovered in the 5 Mile Pass recreational area. Coincidentally, that same evening, the sheriff's office received a missing person report for 23-year-old Brooklyn Tyree, who was last seen in the company of her ex-boyfriend, Brandon Zipperly. It was revealed that Tyree had been planning to visit friends in the Tooele area earlier during the same week, but had not contacted anyone since then. Surveillance footage from May 3rd showed Tyree entering a vehicle with Zipperly, the father of her 7-month-old child. Authorities identified the victim by comparing the clothing she was wearing in the video to the clothing found on the body recovered in the desert. The investigation looked at the location data obtained from the phones of both Tyree and Zipperly. The data indicated that the two were near the 5 Mile Pass area on May 3rd. On May 10th, Zipperly was scheduled to meet with his parole officer for an interview. During the course of the interview, Zipperly confessed to shooting Tyree, concealing her body, and disposing of her personal belongings and her lifeless body in a secluded area of the Utah desert. After a search of Zipperly's residence, officials found a shoe belonging to his fiancée, 28-year-old Elizabeth Ludwig. The shoe's tread pattern matched a footprint found at the crime scene. Ludwig was interviewed by authorities, where she admitted to helping Zipperly in hiding the victim's body. Based on the gathered evidence and confessions, the Tooele County Sheriff's Office arrested Zipperly and booked him into the Tooele County Detention Center on charges of murder and obstruction of justice. Ludwig was also arrested and booked into the same detention center, but she was only facing charges of obstruction of justice. In February 2023, because of Zipperley's guilty plea, he was sentenced to a minimum of 15 years in prison, with the possibility of life in jail. Do you think his sentence was fair, especially because of how heinous his crime was? Let us know in the comments below and hit subscribe while you're at it. Number 4. Relentless Terror. On March 20th, 2022, authorities in Utah arrested a man who launched a violent attack on his girlfriend, stabbing her in the face and chest just as police vehicles arrived outside their house. 34-year-old Charles Oshodi was charged with multiple felonies, including aggravated kidnapping, child kidnapping, possession of a weapon by a restricted person, assault on a police officer, and aggravated assault. He is also facing a misdemeanor count on reckless endangerment and an allegation of spitting at an officer. Oshodi held his girlfriend and her son captive for several days inside their shared house in Sandy. During this terrifying period, he subjected the victim to relentless terror, repeatedly threatening her life. He strangled her and brandished a box cutter, holding it against her throat while driving at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour on the highway. The incident unfolded as police responded to a 911 hang-up call at their house. Oshodi initiated the stabbing attack on his girlfriend just as law enforcement officers arrived. Upon entering the house, they heard the sounds of a woman's screams and discovered a 9-year-old boy. They then encountered Oshodi and the victim, both of whom were covered in blood. It was the victim's son who had dialed 911, although the reasons for the hang-up call remain unknown. Upon arriving, the police realized that Oshodi had blocked the front door using a chair and proceeded to threaten the victim with a knife for 4 hours. At various points during this ordeal, he would lunge at her while making it clear that he wanted to harm her. Fortunately, the victim's son did not have any injuries during Oshodi's violent acts, but the charging documents outline a pattern of abuse that the victim endured throughout their relationship, which began in July 2021. She informed the police that she had refrained from reporting these incidents because Oshodi had threatened to kill her upon his release from jail. Oshodi has a troubling criminal history in Michigan, including a domestic violence conviction in 2013. As of now, he remains in custody while he awaits his sentence. Due to his first-degree charges, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. Number 3. Deadly Greed. In March 2022, a Utah woman poisoned her husband with fentanyl-laced Moscow mules, killing him in the process. Corey Richens, a 33-year-old woman from Camas, a town near Park City, Utah, was accused of murdering her husband Eric Richens, who was 40 years old at the time of his death. The incident occurred in their home, and according to the police, Corey gave him a lethal dose of fentanyl, disguising it in a Moscow Mule cocktail. In the weeks and months leading up to the incident, Corey had been making efforts to make herself the only beneficiary of Eric's life insurance policy. But Eric had taken precautions to protect his belongings by changing his will and power of attorney, granting his sister full control. He was concerned and reported to the police that his wife was trying to harm him. In the years preceding Eric's death, he had even told his family about Corey's intentions to harm him. Twice, Eric got extremely ill after having drinks or dinner with his wife. One of Eric's sisters told the police that 3 years prior, Eric had called her from Greece while on vacation with Corey, claiming that she gave him a drink that made him ill, and he believed that she had just tried to kill him. According to the police, Corey asked a friend to get her drugs after paying $900 for the first batch, and then she paid another $900 after Valentine's Day. She asked for the Michael Jackson stuff, referring to fentanyl. While Corey claimed that she did not use her phone on the night of her husband's death, police records indicate that she was engaged in text conversations with someone. These messages were later deleted. After Eric was found dead in their house, Corey initially informed the police that she performed CPR on Eric after discovering him unresponsive in their home. But the fire crew and medics who arrived at the scene found this claim unlikely, as there was blood coming from Eric's mouth. Corey had previously claimed that he had a pain medication addiction during high school, but had no substance abuse issues since then. But friends and family members told the police that they had no knowledge of Eric being addicted to any form of medication, and officers did not find any painkillers in the family home. Corey was taken into custody in Summit County. In addition to the murder charge, she is also facing charges related to the alleged possession of GHB, a narcolepsy drug often used recreationally, including in dance club settings. Interestingly, in April 2023, she made an appearance on a local TV station to promote her book titled Are You With Me?, priced at $14.99. During the interview, a video clip shows her referring to her husband's death as a shock and discussing how she has been guiding her 3 sons through the grieving process. Until now, she has not admitted to being responsible for her husband's death. Currently, Corey remains in custody, awaiting her next court appearance. Number 2. The Celebrity's Rage. On February 17, 2023, a woman from Utah was arrested after she went through a fit of anger at her boyfriend. In an incident captured on police body cam video, 27-year-old Taylor Frankie Paul erupted in anger when her boyfriend, Dakota Mortensen, refused to take her to a concert because she was drunk. The video reveals that the situation quickly escalated as Paul threw chairs and accidentally hit her 5-year-old daughter Indy in the head. Police were called to the scene in a Salt Lake City suburb, where Paul appeared stressed and claimed to have wet herself out of fear. The body cam footage from the night of her arrest captured the arrival of Harriman officers at Paul's house, responding to a 911 call from a worried neighbor. Paul and Mortensen, who had been dating for 6 months, both answered the door. When questioned about the situation, Mortensen described Paul as being heavily drunk, to which Paul retorted that Mortensen was also drunk and had thrown her in the garage. The officers then separated the couple, escorting Paul outside, where she started crying and slurred her words while talking to the police. In her conversation with the officers, Paul explained that she was emotionally stressed because of her ongoing divorce, but she quickly became confrontational, expressing indifference, and claimed that she wanted Mortensen to leave. Paul admitted to the police that she had pushed and hit Mortensen, and she had done so in response to him pushing her first. She also said that she had thrown objects at Mortensen out of fear. On the other hand, Mortensen claimed that he had picked up Paul from a girls' night out where she had too much to drink, despite their agreement to avoid drinking because of his addiction recovery. He had insisted on taking Paul to a concert, but upon realizing her intoxicated state, he decided against it. This decision triggered Paul's anger and led to an escalating confrontation. He stated that Paul got violent in front of their daughter Indy, while their 2-year-old son Ocean was asleep upstairs. He felt unsafe, so he pushed Paul out of his way to try to leave, after which she fell because she was intoxicated. Then Mortensen presented officers with video evidence from his phone showing the chair hitting Indy, and the charges against Paul were brought up to felony aggravated assault, reckless child abuse, and domestic violence in the presence of a child. 2 weeks later, the Salt Lake County District Attorney charged Paul with 2 counts of third-degree felony domestic violence, a Class A misdemeanor of child abuse with injury, and a Class B misdemeanor of criminal mischief. Paul had become famous on TikTok by sharing snippets of her daily life, including her 2 children and ex-husband Tate. She shocked fans when she announced their divorce in the summer of 2022 and claimed that her behavior during a soft swinging event was the reason. During the arrest, Paul expressed disbelief and questioned the officer's decision to arrest her, asserting that Mortensen had pushed her as well. As she was being handcuffed and placed in the back of a patrol vehicle, Paul's mother, Leanne May, arrived to take custody of the children. After her arrest, Paul took a break from social media, but later returned to announce that she had been undergoing therapy and taking medication to address her depression and anxiety. She mentioned spending time with Mortensen's family and talked about her love for them. Paul acknowledged that she would keep her children off TikTok for the time being, but did not mention her impending court proceedings. If convicted, she could face up to 5 years in state prison for each felony charge. Number 1. The drugs in the car. In October 2020, a Utah woman was arrested by the police after being found in possession of drugs and drug-related equipment while she was with 3 young children. 33-year-old Didi Tahiro's arrest happened when an officer noticed Tahiro sitting in the passenger seat of a car without a license plate. When the officer tried to stop the car she was in, it took a turn onto a street and parked near a townhouse. That's when the male driver got out of the car and Tahiro took control, after which she drove away, ignoring the officer's attempt to pull her over. She eventually stopped the vehicle inside an apartment complex. After she stepped out of the car, the officer observed what appeared to be a pipe tucked in her back pocket. When questioned about it, Tahiro admitted that it was a spice pipe commonly used for smoking synthetic marijuana. The officer immediately put her under arrest, securing her in handcuffs. After investigating the car further, the officer discovered a large gallon-sized freezer bag filled with a green leafy substance resembling spice, which is a form of synthetic marijuana. Along with the drugs, officers also uncovered a loaded bowl containing more leafy green material, syringes, and several knives. Further checks revealed that the vehicle had been reported stolen, and it was discovered that Tahiro was driving with a suspended license. The officers soon realized that she was under felony probation at the time she was arrested. Immediately, she was taken into custody and booked in the Weber County Jail with several charges, including the distribution of controlled substances, operating without a license, and endangerment of a child. As of now, she awaits her sentence. Which one of these Utah crimes is the most disturbing one for you? Let us know in the comments below, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Bad Badger.